has been 50 years since Cuban President Fidel Castro launched his socialist revolution in 1953. Since his rise to power, Castro has outlasted 9 U.S. presidents. But today, Castro's ideology appears lost on a new generation of Cubans captivated by American culture. While baseball has long been a Cuban passion, today other American pastimes are spreading. Cubans celebrated the 50th anniversary of the revolution on the streets of Cuba. At communist centers throughout Havana, Cuban icons hung silently on the wall, while the young moved to the beat of American rap music. 90 miles from the U.S. shores, Cuba's vibrant streets attract increasing numbers of Westerners. Yet for Americans, Cuba remains inaccessible. The Bush administration has started prosecuting Americans violating the U.S. travel ban. For over 40 years, America's Cold War sanctions have cut off Cubans from essential American goods, from car parts to medicines. For over 40 years, Castro's anti-American stance has defined his rule. When the White House ordered the invasion of Iraq, Castro responded by arresting 75 Cuban dissidents he accused of collaborating with the U.S. in an attempt to destabilize his government. Castro proclaimed, "We are now immersed in a battle against provocations that are trying to move us towards conflict and military aggression by the United States. We have been defending ourselves for 44 years and have always been willing to fight until the end." Castro arrested doctors, educators, economists, and a poet. Soledad Rivas' husband, Roberto de Miranda, was one of 75 arrested last spring.
I didn't know if he was dead. I needed to know if he was there in prison, because I didn't know if they had killed him or had thrown him into the sea. I didn't know what they had done to him.
Miranda has a serious heart condition, and since his imprisonment has suffered at least one heart attack. He is now serving 20 years in prison, convicted of conspiring with the United States. Miranda operated a school for children out of his home. Soledad Rivas is not alone. Every Sunday she joins other wives of imprisoned dissidents at the Church of Santa Rita in Havana. The wives have met for 13 years, dressing in white to protest their husband's incarceration. And the secret police across the street sit watching.
I'm the voice of my husband. He can't speak. He's in a pit. He's sick. In a pit with inhumane conditions, without water, light, table, chair, on a rotten mattress, without medicine, and he's very sick.
Countries and human rights organizations around the world have condemned the arrests, trials, and treatment of these prisoners.
The liberty is not only for the prisoners, but for all the people of Cuba. Because the prisoners could be free tomorrow, but the problem will still exist.
Rivas was told by state security to stop demonstrating at the church, or her husband would be transferred to a prison in Guantanamo, more than 600 miles from her home. During an interview with Rivas at her house, a security agent came to the door to check on our camera crew. At first, Rivas was surprised by her visitor.
That was state security. Did you see that he was just here?
She quickly became annoyed.
He doesn't come to see how I live because he knows how I live. That my house is falling apart, that I don't have a place to sit. The only thing they are worried about is who visits me.
Lázaro Constantine Duran is one of Rivas' visitors and an outspoken critic of the government.
I have been in prison 3 times, the most recent being for 4 years for reading the Declaration of Human Rights out loud at an interview here with CNN on December 10, 1998.
Duran is one of 300 educators belonging to Roberto Miranda's Association of Independent Teachers. Here in Miranda's home, children were taught in an after-school program. The school exposed students to democratic ideals and books not sanctioned by the Cuban government. Sitting in Miranda's home, Duran explains that after Miranda's incarceration, security forces confiscated many personal and educational materials.
They took all the children's drawings here with them. They took computers and other things that in any other part of the world are common.
There were many books for children. They were taken because the state security said they were subversive.
From the very beginnings of Castro's socialist revolution, he has emphasized education despite this latest crackdown. Cuba has achieved one of the highest literacy rates in the world, 95%. Yet with the fall of the Soviet Union in 1988, Cuba has turned to tourism to finance its socialist system. Castro legalized the US dollar in 1993, and in the process changed the economic incentives of his country. Foreign tourists, mostly Europeans, flock to Cuba's scenic streets. They bring more than $2 billion a year. Although US travel bans prevent most Americans from traveling to the Caribbean island, which sits only 90 miles south of Florida, the US dollar is everywhere.
Este es el cubano. Este no sirve. El que sirve es este.
Most Cubans make less than $20 a month. The highest paid jobs are now in the tourist industry. This woman posing with a cigar can make more with one tip than an average Cuban makes in 2 days of wages.
Hola, ¿dónde tú Havana cigar? In my house, you video for me in my house. Are you maybe $3 for $100? No?
Yeah, made the factory is very good.
Cubans acquire items from government factories like cigars, often illicitly, to sell to willing tourists on the street.
The only thing they worry about is a dollar that comes from France or the United States, yet they don't tell the people where the millions of dollars go that the government takes from tourism. There is no medicine, no food. Where's the money going?
The dissidents, convicted of receiving money from the US to disrupt Castro's government, now sit in jail cells with prison terms up to 27 years. Still, the dissidents' wives remain hopeful for Cuba.
I don't think that any Cuban would want to leave, and those who have left our homeland love and respect the Cuban flag, always dreaming that one day they'll return home and be able to have their flag again.
Since filming, Castro released Roberto de Miranda and 5 other dissidents for health reasons. Miranda remains under house arrest and is forbidden from engaging in any dissident activities. 70 of the dissidents Castro arrested remain in prison. US and Cuban relations remain suspended in time.